think you're the only superhero in the world? You become part of a bigger universe. You just don't know it yet.
Earth's mightiest heroes don't think.
Because if we can't protect the Earth, you can be damn well sure we'll avenge it.
Before we get started, does anyone want to get out?
Here we go. Ladies and gentlemen, Coffee and Comics, we are back. It is time for all the comic heads to assemble. I am your favorite Puerto Rican host, Lyrican, alongside my brother,
Jimmy Jam.
And Jimmy, I think it's time to officially announce our Weapon X.
We've brought in a third party.
You know, the Avengers had to assemble, so we've had to assemble. We got our big brother, C-Mac, in the building. How you doing, brother?
What's up, everybody?
You know, people loved you on the first one, so we figured we'd bring you back, and we had to dig out a superhero name for you. So, you know, Cullen is your mild-mannered name.
Yeah, well, saying Weapon X, I'm like, no claws. No claws.
Well, you know, I was thinking it's now that there's the three of us, it's the dynamics of the Marvel dynamic of like Thor, Cap, Iron Man. It's like the pyramid has been completed.
So, I mean,
the Trinity, if you would say.
Yes, the Trinity.
So Lyric and Jimmy's dressing up like Wonder Woman, right?
No, I'm wearing that underneath here right now. It's not dressing up. I have to remove that tonight before I go to bed.
I was about to say, because if we go in Avengers, I'm definitely Iron Man. So I don't know which one of y'all want to be Black Widow, but
I mean, I got this on right now, so you know.
Dawn in the S.
Well, we can be the amalgam universe then. There we go.
There we go.
So let's start off with the most popular topic in the world right now. Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
Amazing.
How'd you think of the last episode?
I loved it. Every single second of it. It was, it was action-packed, but then it had a whole ton of heart and soul in the middle of it.
Yeah.
I mean, like, blew me away. And then by the end of it, when the episode ended, I'm like, that's it? You're going to leave us hanging like this?
I thought for sure they would show... I know what's in the box.
Yeah.
I think I know. I could be very wrong.
I think I know too, but I still want to punch John Walker in the damn face.
He's getting on my nerves now. He is. He's really.
Yeah.
They're taking him dark.
They are, and I think it's only going to get. I mean, like I said last week, I think it's only going to get worse before they really wrap it up, and I don't think it's going to be like something they wrap up and then that's it. I think he's going to be a character that keeps showing up throughout the Marvel universe for the next couple of years.
I would not be surprised if they are in talks of season 2, and I would not be surprised if he comes back for season 2 and he's still a thorn in their side.
So let's talk about the elephant in the room. I thought they brought the topic of race tactfully into the show this week. I think they did a really good job. My question is the inner turmoil that he presented to Sam by discussing whether he should or should not be the next Cap.
I thought it was very tastefully put together. It was in your face, but not over redundant.
Yeah. Like
some CW shows that I've seen. Yeah, it was amazing, and I think they did such an amazing job, especially when you actually felt like I had tears in my eyes watching that scene, and I was like, "This is why Marvel is Marvel."
Colin, what was what was your take?
The race side of it, I've read a couple things over the last couple of weeks that keep on pointing out like, oh, and like the first or second episode, there was a whole thing with the cops, and you know, there's a white guy and a black guy, and the cops pull up in this neighborhood, and then we fast forward to this week, and I think that I think the one a couple weeks ago was just like a low hanging fruit for people to just look at and pick on and say, oh look, they're trying to be socially relevant, they're trying to make a commentary on something.
Yeah,
and I think it was more or less just kind of in service of the story. Marvel's been doing stuff like that for years in the comic books, where they pick something that's some sort of event or something like that. They throw it in there, and they touch on it lightly, but then they'll always have a character that's driven by it a little bit more. And having Isaiah Bradley in there and really having him with a unique and cynical perspective on everything, talking to Sam, but then you have Sam kind of stuck in the middle between he knows Steve, he knows what Steve represents, he's lived the experience that Isaiah Bradley has. So now it's how does he bring it all together? How does
It was
how does
very
he decide what to do?
it was very good for character development, and
Hmm.
it also worked in reverse when Steve Rogers did it. Because remember, he was punching Nazis in the face in the first one.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it's full circle. And even when Steve was punching Nazis in the face, it was still done tastefully and to the point where, hey guys, Marvel understands what's going on. It's relevant to the story. They didn't add it to a story just to be popular. Yeah, I mean,
Mhm.
Sam Wilson is fighting a demon inside of him, whether or not to be Falcon or be Captain America. And he's, unless if you have a black and white TV, he's black. So it needs to be addressed in some shape or form because it's part of his being, and especially with Marvel taking a more present day approach to these.
I thought this episode took a beeline character and put him in the spotlight. I do. I think they really lifted up Sam this week. They took him from being a supporting role in most of, in most of all the Avenger movies, he was a supporting role.
Yeah.
And even in this series, he's been, he's in the forefront, but even with the dynamics with Bucky, it's been like, he's still a supporting character. And that's the way I've seen him until this episode. I feel like Marvel lifted him up, put him on the pedestal and said, you will be the next Cap.
Yeah, yeah. I think they just looking at like Sam Wilson as a character from the Winter Soldier all the way up to Endgame, he's always been kind of like you said, like a B-list character. Like he's an Avenger, but he's not one of the main Avengers. He's one of the newer ones where they're still kind of figuring out how he's going to work. He's like part of the B team. And then you get to this week's episode and the dynamics between him and Bucky. I mean, I feel like this week's episode really evolved the character
Exactly. Yeah.
crazily, like to the point that I'm like, there we go. This guy can be the heart and soul of the MCU now, because Cap was the heart and soul.
That's
You
my
know,
next thing. How they put Sam and they dealt with Sam dealing with that struggle. Is Marvel going to actually make him a trilogy movie as him as Captain America?
Well, if any character can do it, I think it would be Falcon. And if any actor can do it, I think it would be Anthony Mackie. I think he's a talented actor. He's been around for a long time and he's done some great things. I think he could, as an actor and as a character, take on the lead of the MCU.
I seen a meme on the internet where it says Sam Mackie is nothing but a Will Smith. If you listen to him and the way he talks and his mannerisms, he's like he studied Will Smith.
Yeah.
Listen to the way he talks. He sounds like Will Smith. And it's crazy because, I mean, I love Will Smith. And I just thought it was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Now, my
I'll
next
have to
question
check that out now.
my next question to you is, who's the power broker?
Ooh. So do we want to deep dive in this for a second?
I heard rumors
Like-
I heard a rumor, and I don't know if it's true, but they said that, well, the power broker's name in the actual comics is Curtis Jackson. Now,
Mhm.
there is a huge rumor that's catching a lot of momentum that 50 Cent is actually going to pop up as the power broker. And now why this backs it up is because 50's in negotiation on producing Luke Cage
Oh,
on the
okay.
Disney Plus. I mean, he's done an amazing job with Power. He's a really good director. And
He's
gonna
very
play-
talented. Yeah.
he's going to play a character on there. So that makes me think it could happen.
Is it going to be the hype? I mean, because next week is the finale. Is it going to be the hype that WandaVision was? You know, we're all waiting to see Doctor Strange at the end, and there was no appearance. I mean, there is in the credits. If you look, they say you can see a quick vision of him, and I use that as a pun because we're talking about WandaVision. But
Yeah. I don't
um,
know. There's the only thing that's for sure about Marvel is that nothing's for sure. They drop all these breadcrumbs that just kind of are there to misdirect people, and some of the stuff that seems too easy ends up being what it is. I don't know. I think the route that they're going, looking at how they did WandaVision, looking at the stuff that's possibly going to happen in the Black Widow movie, they're definitely putting not just seeds down to do an Avengers movie, but they're building up to build to other movies. I mean, we know there's going to be a Young Avengers movie at some point in time, or a Young Avengers TV show. It's the Hawkeye TV show is going to have Kate Bishop in it. We've already seen Speed and Wiccan. We saw Patriot in this one with Isaiah Bradley's grandson. Like, it's going to happen.
Iron Lad. You got him in Iron Man 3.
Yeah, I don't know if they're ready for a movie with that yet. I do see Disney Plus taking it on the show. I think, the next big development in the Marvel universe will be the next Avenger movie, rolling it out into the new Avengers. Not the new Avengers, but the next
set of Avengers.
Or the new Avengers.
Hey. Comic book title. I still think we need Fantastic Four and we need X-Men before we get those.
Oh yeah, they have to redo that Fantastic Four. They've butchered it twice now. I mean, they just can't seem to get it.
What is the Fox timeline for X-Men?
You mean 3 times? Because there was the one in the 90s that never saw the light of day.
Yeah,
and there was actually two. Yeah. There was actually 2 with the first set. The second set, if we're talking,
the only redeemable qualities in those movies were Jessica Alba in a catsuit.
Yeah,
let's be honest.
Yeah,
Chris Evans was hilarious in them, and you got Michael Chiklis as the Thing, because who didn't want him to play Ben Grimm at that time?
Yeah,
I mean, he was pretty awesome. And Lawrence Fishburne voiced the Silver Surfer.
Yeah.
Which is like perfect voice for the Silver Surfer.
And I really did like Michael B. Jordan taking over.
Yeah, he was pretty good.
Yeah.
I like the remake of Fantastic Four. I think they was pretty good.
I think they were on the right path with the remake. I thought the characters were a lot more suitable in as far as like appearance versus the original. I mean, it was a younger Fantastic Four than what we saw before, but I think it was a little more like I go back to, and I think the first Fantastic Four was much like Michael Keaton Batman. The second set of Fantastic Four was a little bit more Dark Knight. It was a lot more. It wasn't as much comic book. It was more.
It was definitely darker.
It was a little darker. The characters were a little darker.
But no, we all want John Krasinski as Mr. Fantastic and Emily Blunt as the Visible Woman. I still don't know who I want to be the Thing yet. I would like to see, and follow me here, John Cena as the Thing.
I was going to say Bill Goldberg.
I think John Cena as the Thing would be great.
Only thing is John Cena's Peacemaker and Suicide Squad, and he is absolutely killing me in those trailers.
But did you see him in Fantastic Fast and the Furious trailer? He looked pretty good there.
I haven't seen it, but I'm a wrestling fan too, and he's always solid on the mic. And wait, was that a look? Like, this guy watches wrestling too? Yeah,
I love wrestling.
We're wrestling heads too, so it's fun.
But I don't think he doesn't have the ability. I think it'd be interesting to see, but at the same time, it's hard for me to see him doing that. I mean, the Thing always has an element of tragedy with him.
Yeah,
where he's constantly ashamed of how he looks. He's constantly embarrassed. He's very, very, very self-conscious. So it would be hard for me to see John Cena like wounded. I mean, he'll probably sit there and go, "You can't see me," and all that stuff. But at the same time, I got to see Suicide Squad before I can judge.
And I don't know if John Cena would give up the title or the throne of showing his face during a movie. I mean, we're talking about him.
I mean,
voicing a character more than being the character.
A Marvel MCU check would make you do a lot of things you normally wouldn't do.
I don't see
Yeah.
I don't see the character with I don't see the actor with that character. It's just not there for me. Like I said, it's more someone like we said, Michael Chiklis, but I see like someone like Bill Goldberg.
Yeah.
If we're going for that build type thing.
Well, I don't know. We've gotten to the point in technology too, where like you have the voice. Like if you didn't know that Bradley Cooper was voicing Rocket Raccoon, and somebody
Yeah.
told you, you'd be like, "No,
Wow.
that's not Bradley Cooper," and then you see it, and you're like, "Oh my god, it is." Okay, or that Vin Diesel
Is
is
Groot.
voicing
Yeah.
Groot.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like it's not just he goes in the studio and says, "I am Groot," and leaves. Like they go through the movie, so his inflections and everything is like on point with what's happening, and then he goes and records it in different languages.
Wow.
Yo
Yeah,
estoy
it's like, wow.
Groot.
Yeah.
Yo estoy Groot.
But I think with that, it's Fantastic Four. People have said this before. I've said it before. There's been different times where there's been articles and everything written about it. But so far, Disney's already cracked the formula of the Fantastic Four, and it's called The Incredibles.
Yes.
Yeah. So I'm thinking if they want to do it, and they probably already had this conversation, but they should be getting the people that did The Incredibles into the room and saying, okay, now you can actually do the Fantastic Four. What are you going to do? And go from there.
Wow.
Yeah. But I think the harder one to crack is the X-Men.
Yeah. I thought they were going to make the snap be the reason that the X gene was activated, how many snaps we had. And I still don't know how they're going to properly introduce X-Men.
How do you replace Hugh Jackman? I can't fathom any other actor as that character.
Well, there was one, and then he ended up being Venom.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Oh, yeah.
I thought he would have been a good.
Or even Patrick Stewart. I mean,
Patrick Stewart was amazing.
Well, but James McAvoy did a really good job too.
Yes, he did.
yes.
Yeah.
I would.
Patrick Stewart's fantastic, but
Yeah.
James McAvoy was really good as well. Plus, he also looked a little bit more like the 90s animated version of Professor X.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was a lot of characters. Kelsey Grammer as Beast. There was several actors that came out through the X-Men movies that I think were amazing. It's a shame they're going to be. I don't know how they're going to replace them or set it up for the new X-Men.
Now there is heavy traction that they have already announced that they are starting a Wolverine Disney Plus TV series. And there's also traction with Marvel trying to bring Hugh Jackman back to have a MCU version of Wolverine versus Hulk.
Wow.
Mark Ruffalo. Now, I wish Wolverine and the Incredible Hulk with Edward Norton's Hulk would probably be more aggressive. But
Yeah, but I know that Hugh Jackman's already said the only way he'll come back to the role is if it's him and Ryan Reynolds doing Deadpool 3.
Yeah.
Which I'm pretty sure if they want to make that happen, Disney will just be like, okay, here's a check. Just put a number in. We're fine.
Yeah, I think
Because I'll pay to see that movie
I
with
would
no
too.
hesitation.
Oh,
Yeah.
that would be amazing. I know he wanted to retire the character completely, and like you said, that's the only way he'll come back. I don't see him coming back unless, like you said, that's the way it does happen.
Yeah. Well, and he, I mean, just again, when we were talking about last week, there are certain actors that just define the roles that they do. You know,
Yeah.
Christopher Reeve, Superman, Robert Downey Jr., Iron Man,
You can't
you
get
know,
a better.
Chris Evans, Cap,
Yeah.
Hugh Jackman. You cannot say there's somebody else who's going to be Wolverine, because I mean he defined it for a generation. So I'm hoping Disney and Marvel just kind of let the getting all tongue tied here, X universe just chill down a little bit and kind of, I don't want to say necessarily be forgotten about, but just give it a good amount of time to just sit and simmer in the background. But I've been saying, even with the comics, like with Marvel Comics, you have Marvel Comics, and then you have all of the X-Men comics that could be their own separate universe, because there's just so much going on there where I'm sure they're trying to figure out how they approach it without having it be incredibly overwhelming to the audience.
Yeah.
You get all these new characters all at once.
I don't think you can bring the X-Men into a mixture like they did some of the other characters. I think they need to have their own movies for a little bit and, you know, make appearances there, here and there. I think if they do it the way they did Ant-Man, I think they'd be okay.
I'm okay with waiting to the next phase of movies, or even the next phase after that, for X-Men. Because I think X-Men itself has so many storylines that it could literally run the MCU for 2 phases of movie.
Yeah,
Where
yeah, and they wouldn't even have to really put a lot of effort into it either.
I would love and I would need a Fantastic Four before I would need an X-Men right now.
Yeah, and I'd love to see. I mean, there's been that rumor for years that, you know, if you look at the end of the first Avengers movie, the way that the A is stylized on the tower, you can take it and just rotate it, and it turns into a 4.
Mm-hmm.
So the rumor is Avengers Tower is going to become the Baxter Building.
That's
So,
what a lot of heavy rotation is right now. We've
Mhm.
seen it in SpiderMan. Obviously, he flew through it. I think it would just be too ingenious for it not to be the Baxter Building. Like, who else could it be?
Yeah. Well, I think realistically, if it is, we're probably going to see it not in a TV show, but it's probably going to be in like Captain Marvel 2, where something space oriented is going to be needed, or some type of technology, and they're going to go talk to the Baxter Building or people at the Baxter Building, and it's going to turn out to be Reed Richards.
Now, what was
And
the
that might be
Osborn's tower name?
Just
Oscorp.
Oscorp.
Oscorp is
Yeah.
what I was going to say. If you check out the latest Read It, it says Oscorp takes over the Avengers building.
I can't.
That was a rumor too, but I know that Oscorp is a Spider-Man property, and in Amazing Spider-Man 2, they were gonna put Avengers Tower in the background at the opening, and then Sony or somebody in there like threw a fit and said, "No, don't do it, don't do it." But they were going to,
Yeah, because
and then they
originally
pulled out at the last second.
Andrew Garfield was supposed to be the one that crossed over before they picked Tom Holland to take over.
Yeah,
I like Andrew Garfield as Spider-Man. I thought he was edgy, funny. And then Tom Holland came around. I mean, Tobey Maguire, great actor, great Spider-Man. To me, he's like the Christopher Reeve. He'll be Spider-Man to me forever, because that was the person, the actor that defined the role. But then you had, you know, Andrew Garfield came around a little bit more edgier, and now you have Tom Holland, who to me is more suited for the role as Peter Parker.
Yeah.
I'm not seeing, I still have a problem with Aunt May being
hot.
I just, I mean, I know everyone loves her, but Marissa Tomei as Aunt May is hard for me after watching My Cousin Vinny. But no, I picture Aunt May as older. I thought Sally Fields did a great job as Aunt May. But I see what they're trying to do. They're making her a little edgier, just like they did with Tom Holland.
Yo, you better leave Happy alone. Happy's bagging Aunt May right now.
yeah.
Now,
Well,
Andrew
I was
Garfield.
gonna say when
But
just when like Marissa Tomei was Aunt May, I remember talking to so many friends who were like, Marissa Tomei is Aunt May. Yeah, I have the weirdest boner right now.
Now,
But Jimmy, just to follow up with what you were saying, I mean, I kind of look at Tobey Maguire, Andrew Garfield, and Tom Holland as Tobey Maguire is kind of like the Spider-Man that you had in the 60s and 70s,
Yeah.
where like, like new character, like kind of more traditional, that Jack Kirby-esque kind of artwork, stuff like that. And then you've got Andrew Garfield, who's a little bit more of like the Todd McFarlane style art, a little bit more of the 90s, where Spidey's like real skinny with big hands and
the
all
bigger
that. And then
eyes.
Tom Holland's like, yeah. And Tom Holland's like the ultimate Spider-Man, like
Yeah.
from like
Yeah.
the Ultimate Comics, where he's younger, he's more in this kind of world, things like that.
I just think
So,
they took.
anyways,
No, you're spot on. They took Tobey Maguire and they moved him into adulthood too soon, too fast, I think. Andrew Garfield, you got a little bit of that. You never got the full mixture of him developing the character. He had the wittiness of a character that you can enjoy, kind of, not as witty, but more like Ryan Reynolds' Deadpool witty. And now you have Tom Holland, who, like you said, is the ultimate package. He puts all of it together into one. You have the humor, you have the look, and you just have the character that you can say, yeah, that is Spider-Man.
and he's got that subtle New York accent when he talks too.
And we will never, ever talk about Tobey Maguire dancing. Ever. But I'm all for Andrew Garfield coming back as Human Torch, by the way.
That would be nice.
That was
you mean Chris Evans?
No, Andrew Garfield taking over the role.
and taking that role.
Okay.
Yeah.
Taking over the role.
I can see.
I can see that. He has the wittiness of it.
I can see that very well.
And well, and Human Torch and Spidey are really good friends too. So that would be kind of cool to see.
And that would be so dope for people. So now, Tom McFarlane, was he the one that also drew Spawn too as well?
He created Spawn, yeah. But before that, he did art on Spider-Man, and he was the guy that really nailed down how to do the webs.
Yeah, and
in the comic.
he drew the bigger eyes on Spider-Man and made him more. Yeah, I used to study his art in school. He's great.
Yeah, his art was really cool. Still is, and I mean, Spawn was a crazy comic to begin with. That's a deep dive down the road.
That was a character that another one that I feel like failed. They brought in too soon, too fast, and never did anything with it after that movie. So,
well, the movie didn't do well, but the guy that played him, Michael Jai White, I mean, he's popped up off and on over and over again in different things.
Yeah, he's a great actor. It's just
he's fantastic.
The character development was never there for the movie.
Mm-hmm.
That's another person I would not want to fight.
Yeah,
that dude is.
Yeah, he's got the voice too.
Oh
like, why would you want to do this?
No,
yeah,
I wouldn't. Have you seen his fighting? Like, he's like he's like 10 times champion in like Tang Sudo, Taekwondo, Junkwido, and like 17 other like. The dude is like a black Bruce Lee. Like he's. Yeah.
Well, I have, Colin. I think you were going to say something. And I have a question for both of you.
Well, I was going to say, do we want to dive into some theories on what we're going to see next week on the Falcon and the Winter Soldier?
Well, I was actually going to bring it back to you. Who do you think? Well, as long as she doesn't dance on the Winter Soldier, who do you think Val is? Now we know she has two different. Right. I know in the comic books she has two different personas. I know for a while she pretends to be associated with Hydra, and she takes the mantle as Madam Hydra for a while. But I know she's also in cahoots with Thunderbolt Ross. So I'm leaning towards more Thunderbolt Ross because we already had the rise and fall of Hydra. So I don't think we need to beat that dead horse anymore. But what do you think?
Yeah. So here's what I think. I think if you break down what we're seeing an origin story, kind of like Captain America: The First Avenger.
Yes.
A little bit more in reverse, where the end of the story is the character becomes Captain America instead of the beginning of the story. Bucky's involved, but in a different capacity. And let's go back to Iron Man. All of a sudden, somebody shows up from another organization that starts talking to, instead of the good guy, the bad guy.
Mhm.
And I think what we're seeing with Elaine,
Yeah.
yeah, is I think she's going to be the reverse Phil Coulson.
Yes, I think.
And I think,
I
yeah,
think the same as well.
yeah, I think she's going to pop up, and I mean, she's she's already been confirmed as being in Black Widow.
Yes, I seen
I
that.
mean, what does that tell you right there? But I think what we're going to see is, I think after this one, it's going to be a buildup of, I think Thunderbolt Ross may end up being the power broker. And I think the power broker is going to be kind of a figurehead and represent like Nick Fury.
Yeah.
And I think it's going to go in a direction of, eventually we're going to get like Dark Avengers or the Thunderbolts or something like that, where we're going to see these mirror versions of different characters popping up. I mean, they're going to do Armor Wars
Oh
with
yeah,
Don Cheadle.
yes,
And that's going to be awesome, because I'm all about, give me all the different armor designs you want. I want to see everything. More War Machine armors is a good thing in my opinion, because
yeah.
I love the War Machine armor. Um, so I think they're building up to that, and it's going to be interesting to see, because it's definitely not going to be a TV series. Like, that's definitely going to be like a big budget, let's blow everything up kind of movie.
Hell
But
yeah.
I think that's what they're doing, and I think John Walker is going to be a part of that.
Well, I think you're correct, because I think she's the Phil Coulson of AIM, and we all know AIM is very big in the Black Widow movie, and they're also a
Mhm.
part of Thunderbolt becoming Red Hawk.
Mm-hmm.
So I think she's in cahoots with AIM, and I think we are heading towards the Dark Avengers, Thunderbolt type of evil Avengers being the next pain in the asses in the MCUs.
Yeah, I think that's, I was thinking about it a lot today, doing dad stuff like mowing the lawn.
I did that too today.
Did it
Yeah,
yesterday.
and I was like, all right, I got nothing but the grass and my thoughts, so might as well just get this over with.
Oh
But
my
I
God,
was
I thought
just
he
kind
I
of
thought he
thinking about
almost
it.
said the grass in my thong. I was like,
That is
When it gets a little
stand.
warmer.
yeah, I was
know.
gonna say, however you cut your grass is your business.
Yeah. Well, I get the Borat suit on. Okay.
Very nice.
Yeah. Hello, neighbor.
Hello, neighbor.
But no, I think they're gonna build up to that. The Red Hulk thing has me, I think it might happen, but then I also look at it like, well, who's going to take on the Red Hulk? I mean, there's a chance there could be an epic moment where the Hulk comes back to fight the Red Hulk, but he's all gimped armed from Endgame, and they've said like that injury that he got is not going to heal. It's going to be like that forever. So there's a lot of variables there, but I mean, I'm excited to see what they do
Well, I
in
guess
the
the
short term.
next time we see him is in She-Hulk, right? Well,
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. But I mean, overall, I am pumped for next week, because I want to see what this Wakandan Falcon suit or Captain America suit or whatever is going to look like. Like,
I'm pretty
Yeah,
sure
I'm
it's a
really
Captain
pumped.
America suit. How it looks, I don't know yet. We know it's I'm leaning 100% towards it's Captain America and not his wings for Falcon.
Oh
But
yeah, well, I think there's going to be wings with it too, because that was the whole
there
thing
has to be.
when Falcon took over the mantle. Like,
The
he still had the wings, but then
red
he
and
had the
white
shield
rings,
too.
yeah. It's pretty badass.
Yeah.
So to wrap
Yeah.
up this week, I have to ask you both something, and this has been on my thoughts this week as we ventured into this journey with the three of us. I think Lyric, and he was talking to Christy a little bit earlier, and we were excited to have you on, and we were talking about it. And it's like he said, he's very much Marvel, you're very much DC, and I'm very much like the consumer that sits back and buys all the merchandise from both of them. But I think for our listeners, I need, they know that I don't know as much as you gentlemen do. And I fell in love with the characters through the movies, through the television shows. That's been my development in the comic world. You two are true comic geniuses. And I wanted to pose a question to each of you.
We're just handsome nerds, that's all.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask so our listeners know, and we'll start out with you, Colin, and then I'll go to Lyrican. I'm sorry, C-Mac.
C-Mac.
Yeah.
So what got you into comics and what kept you in?
Ooh, great question.
Getting deep here.
I was a kid. So for me, it was, grew up with Superman as my favorite character. Being able to watch the movies over and over and over again, and not just, like kids do. They find a movie they like, and just at that, like when they're like 4, 5, 6, they just watch it over and over and over again. But then it turned into, once they started doing trade paperbacks, for everything. And I was able to actually go to like the mall and, because there wasn't like a proper comic book store, I could go and grab collected editions all in one shot of different stories and just start reading them. I'm looking over at my bookcase and I see a whole bunch of Marvel logos, DC logos, everything over there. But hardcovers of like Ultimate Spider-Man up to like volume 10. So for me, it was just, oh yeah, I want to read that story. That looks really cool. And getting drawn in by the artwork, and just, $12 for trade that would cover 4 to 6 issues, and just being able to read it down, like over and over and over again. That's what kept me into it. And then there was that subtle explosion at the end of the 90s where they did Blade, and they did Blade right. And then they did X-Men, and they did X-Men right. And then it just kind of kept rolling from there. And that's had me hooked ever since. Ever since I was like 3.
Yeah. So how about you, Lyrican?
Man, listen. I grew very, very fond of comics when I used to go with my father. As you know, my father was a recording engineer. I would go to the recording studio with my dad, and while he was busy, they had this waiting room where I would hang out and watch TV, and they had all sorts of recording magazines, regular magazines, and they'd have a stack of comics. And I picked up the first comic book I picked up was a Spider-Man comic. Started reading the comics, fell in love with it. I would go home and try to draw what I just read. And when my father found out that I actually liked it, he would buy me 2 or 3 comics from the local comic book store in Philly. He would always get me a Superman. He would always get me a Batman. He would always get me a Spider-Man one. Then when I became older, I started watching the cartoons. Saturday morning, you would wake up early, eat your bowl of Fruity Pebbles, and watch cartoons. And then the movies started happening. And for a nerd, that was like the best thing in the world. Like, if you're a comic book head right now, is like the ultimate time to be a comic book nerd. And I started drawing my own comic books, which turned into me learning graphic design, which me being able to escape reality and just having time for myself to just have fun. Even though I hate reading regular books, I love comic books. There's more pictures than words in that one.
That's how I felt about a couple magazines I used to look at as a kid, but we won't talk about those.
Hey, what kind of podcast is this?
But no, that's great background on both of you. And the next question, just to follow up to that, is you're both fathers. How has it been as fathers instilling what you've developed over the years for your children?
My daughter has a Spider-Man suit. She runs around the house going flick, 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 flick. She has a Superman doll. She loves the Incredible Hulk. She's turning into, even though my wife hates it, I'm sorry, Tara, I love you, but I'm turning my daughter into a comic head. My older son loves comics, but he's more of the way you see it, he's more of a consumers type. He loves the movies, but he's never really watched the cartoons. He's too much into PlayStation.
How about you, C-Mac? I know you have some wonderful kids. How's it going that and instilling what you know into them?
Yeah. Well, some of it's just kind of like it's weird to say, but it's nature. Like it just kind of comes out. Like my son is very much the middleman. Like he has characters that he likes, but he's not the like diehard like, oh, we have Disney Plus, I can watch, and HBO Max, I can watch all these cartoons. I'm gonna do it. Like he's kind of back and forth. He's like, yeah, okay. I like Teen Titans Go. That's really cool. I like Teen Titans. That's cool. Batman Beyond's pretty sweet. I'll watch that, you know. And that's about it. He doesn't go like into overdrive like me. um and then what's interesting is my girls are watching this show. Lyric, and I'm not sure if you might have heard of this, having some young girls. Have you ever heard of Miraculous, The Tales of Ladybug and Cat Noir?
No.
So it's kind of like taking Spider-Man and Power Rangers and putting it together and setting it in Paris, where these characters basically have like different gadgets that transform them into superheroes, but they're not like Power Ranger style with like the helmets and suits and all that. Like it's like somebody has like a belt that turns them into Spider-Man, and then they can just run around and stick to walls and do all this stuff.
Oh.
And my girls love it. Like love it. They sit there and watch it,
I
and
think
it's
Colin
turning
has
into
a T-shirt.
That reminds me.
I've watched it a few times.
What you're saying.
Well, I've watched.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I've watched it, and I'm sat there and been like, I read this in a Spider-Man comic, and they're like sitting there, like just drinking the Kool-Aid that the show's having. But that started them branching out. Where, when Wonder Woman '84 came out, and they saw the picture of Wonder Woman in the gold armor.
Oh yeah.
They went nuts, and like that was like they had to have that as their Halloween costumes. They were running around in the full suit with the wings, just having a blast. And like the other day, my youngest was having a tea party with a Batman action figure that my son had, a Batfleck action figure of all things. And I'm like, you're having a tea party with Batman? And she's like, yeah, he's talking to me about some stuff. I'm like,
This is Bat Tea.
yeah.
that show,
but yeah,
the show you're describing reminds me of the Wonder Twins.
It's kind of like that. I mean, they don't have to be together.
Yeah.
To have their powers activate, but jumping on a theory ahead of time, I think that's what's going to happen to Superman and Lois. The sons are going to be the Wonder Twins.
I think that I had a
Yeah.
inkling that was coming.
Yeah. But I mean, it's the kids are always exposed to it, but it's there's been no lines in the sand in the house about who's all DC, who's all Marvel. They're kind of just naturally kind of coming into it. And my son asked if he could watch Justice League the other day, and I looked at him like, buddy, that's a day's work. Like that's not a light thing. That's not a let's get some pizza on a Friday night and watch it. That's like when you get home from school,
We'll
go to the bathroom. Yeah, because we'll start it.
Put the catheter in, son. We're gonna watch the whole thing.
Yeah. I mean, we did Infinity War and Endgame, 2 Fridays. Like I teased him. I was like, listen, you saw Infinity War. Was that awesome? Yeah, I want to see Endgame. Okay, well, you have to wait a year. Why? Because I had to wait a year.
Now, do you know who the Little Bigs A versus X are?
Say that again.
The Little Bigs A versus X.
No.
All right. So if you take X-Men and you take the Avengers and you mix them in with the Rugrats, that's what this is. It's a comic book called Little Bigs A versus X. It's the Little Avengers in their treehouse and the X-Men versus their treehouse. And it's a cartoon that they're they're in development. It's supposed to come out sometime next year for littler kids, for people like my daughters and stuff. And it's literally the Avengers and X-Men as little toddlers fighting over.
It's like Muppet Babies.
Yeah, they're fighting over a lemonade stand, and you stole my bike. I'm gonna web you up real quick. So,
well, it sounds
I'll
like
probably watch it. I have no shame.
I have no shame.
Sounds like we got some shows to sit down and watch together. But not to bring it back to Jack, but I thought we'd wrap up this week with given everybody what they've been looking for, and that's where you guys came from, and where you're going with everything. And for me, it's a learning experience every week to be here with you guys, and I can't thank you enough for inviting me into this world and letting me be a part of your universe.
That was cheesy.
I know. Hit that button.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, with that being said, it is time for all superheroes to relax. Comic heads, it is time to disassemble, baby. Take the night off.
Till next week.